All right. And thank you, good people, for hanging on to this episode of the Real Leaders Podcast with Jason Graham-Nye. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Now it's time to open it up for questions. So if you're on Crowdcast with us today, or you're watching us on LinkedIn, come on over to Crowdcast and ask your questions. And Jason, while we were on the show, we had a few fly in. The first one is from Hillary, and Hillary asks, what was the main insecurities when you started your business?
That's such a good question. It was a serious case of imposter syndrome, that notion that I'm an imposter here in startup land. My background is a Japanese interpreter and a high school teacher. So I'm having meetings with investors in Portland, Oregon, our new home. We were 10,000 miles away from friends and family. So it was definitely, that was a huge problem for me. And I'm having it again now with this research I'm doing for a PhD. I'm in an academic environment. I'm 51 and I'm thinking, oh, should I be here? So it's that sort of insecurity is kind of challenging.
It's a great question. The second one comes in from Julie, and Julie asks, if you were the food czar of the world, what would be the main thing you'd implement, short or long term?
It's funny. I was thinking about this morning. We live in the water we all swim in is in an economy, the notion of an economy, which is really simplistic, right? Like it's like inputs and outputs, and the idea in an economy is that we're not citizens anymore, we're consumers, and so we have agency, which means we act rationally, which in and of itself is hilariously stupid. So I think that as a food czar, I think we're seeing tendrils of this. Like local is massive. The idea that we can rework our food system to grow local, not different than say how we manage waste and other things, back to local is very powerful. And what I'm finding in the research I'm doing for my PhD is communities that are closer to their sort of indigenous heritage are much, much more likely to transition to a circular economy. So I think of us, the food czar, and it's massively difficult. I'm not, the idea of centralized mass food production and then the distribution of it is really problematic on lots of different levels. So that would be my dream, making food local, grow it local.
Jason, I know you're getting your PhD. What's the thesis behind this? What are you working on?
I'm working on, the question is the barriers and enablers to a transition to a circular economy nappy system. So it's very specific to nappies, but we can apply it to other things. And so it's a sociological piece of research. It's not about the business model of circular economy, or it's not about a particular product. I'm interested in consumers and how they respond to different ways of consumption. And to date, we use a thing in the world called the theory of planned behavior, which means, Kevin, if I know your attitudes and beliefs and I can dial up and dial down, I can change your behavior. But it doesn't actually work, because if I survey 100 people and say, would you do the greener thing? 95% of people say they would, and 5% actually do. That's a problem. So it's more than just the consumer is the problem. What you want to look at is this idea of the practice of consumption, which includes the social world, the material world, and then the person. It's complicated, but we live in a complicated world. We are complicated people. And I think so much of the theoretical research is too simplistic. So that's what I'm working on. And I'm looking at a pilot that we're doing in Indonesia on the diaper front. And the hypothesis, as I said before, is that a tight community closer to their indigenous roots has much more chance of leapfrogging and going circular. Not unlike in Africa, where they never had copper wires and phones. They went straight to mobile phone. So they're the highest rate of mobile phone use and the highest rate of mobile-to-mobile payments. So they leapfrog banking and they leapfrog telephones. And I think what I'm going to see is, from a sociological point of view, circular economy will be taken in and adopted far quicker in communities that have a greater sense of community.
It's so interesting. If you have any revelations with that, please do share. Very interested how this will also impact indigenous populations here in the United States, as well as in Australia, especially with carbon credits and jobs that would go out to reforestation. Just an interesting time to live in. Well, Jason, you're an interesting man. Appreciate you coming back on the show. And for folks listening to this out here, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know how we did. how we can improve, and who you would like to hear on the show. If you want to reach back out to us, reach the direct line at b@real-leaders.com. That's be@real-leaders.com. Jason, where can people find more information about MealPass?
Just come over to mealpass.org or shoot me an email, jason@mealpass.org. Oh my gosh. Yes, we'd love to interact with anyone who'd like to know more.
Wonderful. Well, Jason, pleasure having you on the show. For everyone out there watching this, we thank you for being here. Be a part of our community. Look into MealPass, reach out to Jason, and always, folks, keep it real. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.